Hey guys, my name's Aaron from Geeky Development and welcome to part 6 of our free tvOS crash course. Now in the last few parts we've looked at customizing the objects within the application and stylizing them and giving our application its own unique feel. We're now going to take a look at, in this 6th part, creating the visual side of our application that's away from it, such as creating Parallax app icons, which, believe it or not, these move right in front of our eyes, creating the top shelf image, which is an image that is in the featured section of our application, and even creating launch screens, which are what is shown up just before the application loads up. So we can really polish the outside of our application so it makes the inside look just as good. So we're going to jump straight into our 6th part and finalize and finish off the finishing touches to the visual side of our app. So continuing from where we left off in the last part of our crash course, we're still continuing to make the application look good, and we're now going to move on to creating our application icon, our top shelf image, and the launch screen image as well. Now the great thing about creating app icons for the Apple TV is they move. And if you don't believe me, we're going to show you some examples now. The reason they move is because Apple now allow us to create parallax style icons, which the icon itself has 3 layers of images. So we press the menu button in our application here to go to the home screen. As you can see here, I have kind of 4 examples all set up. So I've just removed the remote out of the way. Okay, so I've got these 4 examples here that I've created to simply show you. Now you may be thinking they simply look like normal icons, and they do. But the great thing is, with the parallax kind of effect we can create, if I hold down Alt and use the Apple remote and slightly move it without going on to the next icon, you can see that the layers of the images, go back there, actually move, and it creates really good effects. It's quite hard to do on the actual Apple remote itself, simulating it. But if you've got a real Apple TV, it's great to just play around with. It's quite fun. So on this one here, we've got the car here, which makes it look like the wheels are moving on the car, which are pretty cool. We've got this cute little dog here, and if I'd move it around, his little eyes his eyes stay in the same place. It's his actual face that moves around, which looks really, really cool. And then we've got this football themed one here, where the grass moves slightly, creating this moving shiny effect. So you can see the light. As I keep moving there, it's my fault. You can see the light shining on the actual icon itself, as if there's a big spotlight in front of it. Looks really good. And finally, this one is my favorite. It's a big rocket ship, which if I move this one around, it kind of make it look like the rocket ship is blasting off from the Earth. And the stars move with it as well, which looks really, really cool. This one also has this top shelf image, which we'll be creating for our application as well, whereas the others don't. So then, how we create these parallax application icons is very simple. You just need to create 3 images or 3 image layers. Now, in the resource folder you should have downloaded when you started this crash course, there is also a little folder in there with the images that we're going to be using to create this application icon. So back within our project, within our assets folder, we have this little section here called App Icon and Top Shelf. I'm going to drop it down and then drop down the 2 sections within it. So we have an App Icon Large and an App Icon Small. And we have the front, if I click on it, the front, the middle and the back. Now, the great thing about creating Apple TV applications is if you've tried or attempted or actually submitted your own iPhone applications, you would know that you create the app icons for the device, you place them in the project, but you need to create a really big one for iTunes Connect for the App Store. Well, you kind of do have to do the same here, which is the large section here, but the great thing is you add the larger App Store icon within the project. You don't add it to iTunes Connect. So the large app icon here that we add into our project is only solely going to be displayed on the App Store, whereas the app icon small is what to use to display it on the actual device. Now there's 2 sizes we've got to work with. The large one, as you can see the canvas size here, is 1280 by 768, and the small canvas size here is 400 times 240. So in Photoshop then, get the size up here. In Photoshop, we're going to create our new canvas now. And it needs to be 1280 by 768. So let's change that there and create that. Okay then. So you can choose to create your own application icon, or if you want to use the resource images that's in the downloadable section of the images that I'm going to simply be using. I'm going to open them with Photoshop just now. So all it is 3 simple images, as you can see here, which I'm going to be combined in to create this parallax effect. So then, let's start with our background. So we're going to add our kind of clouds in here. So drag and drop that into our main canvas here, which that looks fairly okay to me. I'm going to simply then bring in our road here. Now the icon we're going to create is going to look really cool. So I've now got, if you're very familiar with Photoshop anyway, 2 layers. I got my first layer and my second layer. So we're going to do some modifications now. So I centered this about right there. I'm not too sure if it's correctly centered, but that looks fine and fair enough to me. I'm going to select this, or kind of highlight this whole area on this layer, and then copy and paste it, doing Command C, Command V. And then get rid of the original layer I dragged in. Now the reason I've done that is because it now has this layer the same size of our canvas. Then I'm going to delete it to a certain point, crop the image, there we go. And then I'm going to get rid of all the dust on either side, so we just have this simple road. Now if you're a bit confused of why I'm doing this, all shall be revealed. We're going to create a really cool parallax effect icon. It's just basically to show you the kind of stuff you can simply do and work with when we're creating it. So I'm using the cutout tool here to simply get rid of all the dirt and dust around it. There we go, and delete that. And then I'm going to drag and drop in my Ferrari, which looks really cool as well. So drag and drop that over, and then place that back center. I'll increase the size of it. There we go. So that's going to be kind of the basis of my icon. I'm going to change how the background looks now. We'll put a nice gradient effect on it. So add a gradient overlay, and I'll change it to white. Let's see how that looks. You know what? I'll cancel that. I'll change it to blue. Switch the blue over. So gradient overlay. Choose the blue color that I'm using now. And OK that. That looks pretty cool there. So it doesn't look really special at the moment. You can't really get the gist of the effect that I'm going for, but I have 3 layers. If I get rid of my background layer here, I now have 3 layers within the project. So we have our background layer, we have our middle layer, and then we have our front layer, which is the 3 images, if I go into our Photoshop project there, that we need to create the parallax icon. So then we're going to save this layer by layer. We're going to start with the bottom layer. So I'll go to Save for Web. And just wait for our box to now appear. And again, we see the size here, 1280 by 768. I'm going to save this to our desktop. I'll call it our large back, which is the back image. There we go, simply save that. I also need to save an additional file in a much smaller size. So I'll repeat the process again, save that. The only difference is I'm going to change the size here from the width to 400, which it changes it in proportion. Now this is going to be the smaller size, or the smaller background image for the smaller size icon. So where I call this one our large back, I'm going to call this one our small back. So on my desktop now, I have 2 images, our large background and our small background. So back within Photoshop, I'm now going to hide the layer of our background and then work with our middle layer. So again, you need to save it with the background layer needs to have no transparency kind of features on it. It's only the middle layer and the top layer that can have the transparency kind of background on it to create this effect. So repeat the process again. This time, make sure it's saving as our larger size, and this one is going to be our large middle. Save that, and repeat the process, but making sure that we change the size here to 400 by 240. And then this one's going to be not our large middle, but it's going to be our small middle. There we go. And then finally, our Ferrari, our last one, our top layer. Repeat the process. So we're saving our large one first. So this is our large top. We save that. And then repeat the process to save our larger, smaller version. Again, 400 by 240. Save that to be our small top. Okay, so we've got all of these images now. If I just simply highlight them and bring them up, as you can see now. So it's brought up in two boxes, that's fine. We've already seen the large and small one of this. We've got our small top, our large middle, and our small middle. We got it all set up. Okay, so we're going to work then first with our app icon large. So again, you would see all these files in the resource pack, so you can use them anyway. But I've now created them. We're going to start with our large back. So we drag and drop in our large back at the bottom. And you can see what that does, it places it at the bottom, then it kind of simulates what it would look like at the top in our parallax effect. So back down in the middle, we're now going to drag and drop in our large middle. By doing that again, you see the effect, the clouds are moving with the road in the background. Looks pretty cool. And what's going to finish it off now is dragging and dropping our large top. There we go. So the effect is not as great as an effect. It doesn't move as much as it would do on the simulator. But you can kind of see how it looks. So remember, this one is only going to be displayed on the App Store. So you need to make sure that this is in your project when you go to submit it to the App Store, because this is the one you use. This is the one iTunes Connect takes. You don't need to add one to iTunes Connect. It's within the project itself. Again, a lot different to when you submit your iPhone or iPad applications. So we've got the large version in. Again, that's only going to be used for the App Store. The one that's going to be displayed on the simulator is the app icon small. So repeat the process then for this one. So we do our small back this time. We do our small middle, and then we do our small top. Again, you see the effect a little bit more now on this one because it's a smaller version, but it looks pretty cool. But it's not going to look just as good as it would do if we went on the simulator. So you can see on the simulator now then, the app icon is blank. We're going to go to build and run and see exactly how it looks. So we just wait for it to build now and press menu to go back to the home screen. You can now see the icon at the bottom. So if I hold down Alt and slowly move it around, you can now see that the clouds move, the road moves, and the car, if I can get it correctly just right, stays exactly where it is, almost stays where it is. It moves a little bit, but you can see that parallax effect now moving our application around, which again looks really, really good. It's a nice dimension to application or app icons that you create. If you go on the actual Apple TV App Store, some applications have some really good icons, which you just simply find yourself just sitting there moving the kind of icon around and seeing the effect take place. So it's quite mesmerizing. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our top shelf image. Now our top shelf image is only displayable, as you can see on our app icons one at the top here of this Rocket app. It's only displayable if an app is in the featured section of our dashboard. So you can see here, these apps all at the top here are in this kind of grey kind of rectangle box, and that's in the featured section. And it only appears or gives us the top shelf image if the application is there. And it's also, your application is also required to have one. And all this is one single image file. So to create this, just like our application icons, you can see comes into the app icon and top shelf image, just here. And this needs to be simply 1920 by 720. The kind of image doesn't really show up or tell us what size it needs to be, which is, I'm not sure why it doesn't do that. It does on everything else. But if we bring up Photoshop, go to new here, This is the actual size. So 1920, which is the resolution of a 1080p screen, but the height is 720. That's what we need to create that rectangle top shelf image. So again, you can use what is placed in within the resources folder, but I'm going to quickly create one now just to show you the effect that we can do it with. So rather than drag and drop this one, I'm actually going to take it from the app icon we created because it's got that gradient effect. So drag and drop that over. There we go. I'll bring the road and the car over as well to see how that looks. It's not going to look as great. What about if I move the car a bit more? We'll make the car smaller. There we go. A bit bigger there. Now let's add in some text as well, maybe the application name. So place that in, we simply call the application cars, why not? There we go, ooh, cars. Let's increase that text size. Put it a bit bold as well, let's increase that quite a lot, let's go 200. So now I've got the name of the application. Doesn't look the greatest, but it's a simple. There, we're adding a little drop shadow. There we go. Let's place that there. Cars, the name of our application. So again, we're going to do very similar to how we created the app icon. Just save it as a single image and drag and drop it in. So save for web. And again, make sure it is the correct size by 1920 by 720. Save that. I'll call it our top shelf. Save that to our desktop. Again, you can find this in the resource folder. Within Xcode, we'll just simply have to drag and drop it in. Now, again, this only appears when the application is in the featured section on the home screen or the dashboard, whatever you want to call it. So as you can see here, when we're on the Rocket app, it has the top shelf. The other ones don't have it, but when we highlight on our own application, nothing appears at the top because it needs to be in that featured section. So let's get rid of one of the applications then. Place it there. There we go. So you can now see that if I just move out the remote out of the way so you can see the text. We have our first app, our second app, our third app. But our own app has its own top shelf image. So you may be thinking, what do I put in my top shelf image? Maybe it's something to like a screenshot of the application, a certain part of the application, or you just want to create a nice banner that's viewable for when your users have your application in the featured section, which again looks really, really good. So all that's left to talk about now then is the launch screen. Now, what the launch screen is this kind of split-second view of your application. For example, if I select this, for that split second then, because there's not much to the application, it loads up quite quick, we're given a blank grey screen. And we also have the option to add in a launch image. So what this launch image does, it replaces that blank screen with the image you created. It's kind of like a waiting screen, like a loading screen, and this gives your users something to look at. If you've got quite a big application, it takes just 1 or 2 seconds to load up. It's just a visual effect for our user. It kind of simulates the application is loading and they don't think that application is crashed if you've got a big application that loads. So back within Xcode, at the very bottom between all our folders here, we have this launch image section. Now we select on this, and again, this one doesn't tell us what size it needs to be. But it actually needs to be the full resolution of a 1080p screen, which is 1920 by 1080. So in Photoshop again, we're going to create a new canvas. Now again, you can find this in the resources folder as well. So 1920 by 1080. There we go. And all I'm going to do is just simply copy what we've created as our top shelf image here. So I drag and drop that in. It's a very similar size, so about there. We'll bring our actual image up. There we go. So then, we've created this. I might make everything quite a bit bigger as well, just to fill up the space a bit. There we go. Our place is up here, cars. Brilliant name for our application. Bring the road down, there we go. So again, the launch image works in a very similar way as the top shelf. It's just a simple single image that we place in there, and it will simply replace our launch screen. So before we save this then, I'm going to rebuild the application. And you'll see now that blank screen as we're looking at right now, we're going to replace that with the image we just created. That's simply our launch screen. So in Photoshop, we're going to save this again for the web, making sure that it is also 1920 by 1080. And again, you can find this in the resource pack rather than creating your own. You can simply follow along with this video and use that file. So I call it our launch screen. There we go. I'm just wait for that to finish now because it is quite a big image. And again, we drag and drop that in. And it's now placed in. So if we start building and running our simulator, rebuild, and as we bring up the simulator, as it loads up our application, we now got that launch image and straight into our application. Which again, you're going to need one of those in your projects anyway. And it's just a great way to either show the application icon, maybe a little screenshot of the application. You can even add the words loading to kind of simulate a loading screen. Now this is not a big application, there's not too much to it, but it still takes maybe 1 or 2 seconds to load up. So having that launch image gives a visual effect to the user that the application is loading, something is happening, so just bear with me. It's better than just having a blank grey or white or black screen, because your user may think, oh, the application's not working, it's crashed, and may press the home screen and come off it, and that's the last thing you want. So all that's left to talk about now is the actual name of the application. And I don't mean what's going to be displayed on the App Store. As you can see, I have this app here called App Icon 1, App Icon 2, App Icon 3. But our actual application is named on the home screen My First tvOS App. And we have the ability to rename this. Now this name that we're going to add in only changes when you're looking at the app icon on the home screen of your Apple TV. It's simply the bundle name. Now this won't change the name of the project, it won't change the name of the app on the App Store. To change the name of the app on the App Store, you edit it within iTunes Connect. So we're going to talk about the final stage of kind of changing and visualizing our application with the bundle name to display something pretty cool underneath your app icon. So back within Xcode, we're going to go to our info.p list, our property list, and we have this line here called our bundle name. Now by default, it's simply our product name, which is the name of our project, which is My First tvOS application, which we see on the home screen of the simulator. Double click on this and I simply call it cars because I've somehow decided that's going to be the name of the application. When I build and run this time, again, I just wait for the simulator to load up, press our home button, or menu button, it now says cars underneath our icon. Now all that simply does is it just changes it on the home screen, but it's better if you've got like if you've named your project something weird, like my application for anything like that. Again, you don't want that to be displayed there when your user is on their home screen. It just polishes off the application again a lot more. We can give it its own custom text underneath the icon. So there we go. Creating those Parallax app icons is a lot of fun, and I still find myself trying different designs and different images and moving around the layers just to see what I can come up with. So if you'd like to take your tvOS development to the next stage, make sure you check out our full featured course where links for this will be down below. But in our 7th and final part of this crash course, we're going to be taking a look at how we can finalize the application and what is the next step within application development and our app. So until then, I'll see you all soon.